Former U.S. President Donald Trump has won the Iowa Republican caucuses. Polls suggest that Trump has claimed the victory with a wide lead. The former president's win gives him a strong start in the race for the 2024 Republican presidential nomination as the contest now moves to New Hampshire. Trump's victory all but a foregone conclusion given his lead in public polls. As per an AP poll, over 50% of Iowa GOP caucus goers voted for Trump. The vote count, however, is still underway. The next big question is who will take the second place and by how much. Trailing behind are former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, both in a tight race here, effectively splitting the non-Trump vote. More than 1,600 places are expected to hold caucuses this year. Unlike other elections, the caucuses are being conducted by political parties and not the state government. Historically, presidential candidates have looked to the Iowa caucus to help launch themselves to nominee status. However, the Iowa caucus hasn't always been the best predictor of who will be the party's nominee, even less so at predicting who will win the presidency. Despite that, the caucus's outcome frequently provides an advantage to the winners, often narrowing down the field by prompting underperforming candidates to the exit race.
I agree with a lot of his policies, but rightly or wrongly, chaos follows him. You know I'm right.
For more on this, we're now being joined by Jonah Blank, former foreign policy advisor to President Joe Biden, live from Washington, D.C. Thank you so much for joining us on the show, sir. Now, sir, I want to begin by asking you, as I mentioned, Trump, as per the polls, has won by a wide majority here. The next question is, who will take the second place and by how much? From what we do know so far, the last time we checked, it was a tight race, almost a tie between Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis. What are your predictions here, or expectations rather?
Well, I had predicted before that Trump would get about 50% of the vote and that DeSantis would be in second place and Nikki Haley would be pretty close behind him. And as of about 5 minutes ago, that's exactly what was coming up. Now, about 60% of the delegates have already been selected, but there is a chance for Nikki Haley to move into that second place. Personally, I don't think she'll do it just because of the structure of the Iowa caucuses. They really favor ground organization and depth of commitment. So I think that the final result will be what we see right now, which is Trump at a little bit more than 50%, DeSantis around 20%, Nikki Haley slightly behind him.
Right, sir. Now, as I mentioned, of course, the Iowa caucuses will help build momentum going forward in this race. However, it's not a good litmus test to actually predict who would be the final nominee or who would even take on Joe Biden in November. In that regard, what are your expectations? Donald Trump, we've seen even before the voters came out, we knew that he would have a strong lead here. So how do you think he's positioned in this race?
Well, I think that barring a lightning bolt from heaven, he's going to be the Republican nominee. In that sense, the Iowa caucus and all of the future ones really don't matter very much because the outcome is pretty much predetermined. But the thing to remember here is that Trump already served one term as president, so we really should look at it as if he were the incumbent in terms of predicting the outcome. History doesn't have a lot to tell us about how an incumbent president who has, or rather a president who has served before and is coming back into the contest would occur, because that's only happened once in American history successfully before, and that was in the 19th century.
Right, sir. Now, if we also talk about Donald Trump and the slew of legal challenges that he faces at the moment, somehow that has not had an impact on his very staunch voter base. What do you think is the reason for such strong supporting for Donald Trump?
That's an excellent question. And sadly, from the standpoint of democracy, in my view, it actually has had an impact on his voter base. It strengthened it. His legal cases have actually strengthened his bond with the base, because a lot of what's going on with Trump is this very angry mood, this very anti-establishment mood, this anti-institutional mood. And That has been expressed in authoritarianism. It's been expressed in utter contempt for the democratic process.
Right. Well, Mr. Jonah Blank, thank you so much for joining us on WION World is One with your insights on this.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.